You guys were asking me to revisit this. We have been looking at the A54, and I think this is Samsung's last pretty decent mid-ranger. It's still surprisingly pretty snappy as well too, which I was really surprised. It got the Android 13 update as well, and it's just been pretty impressive how still smooth this phone is. And it's got the Snapdragon processor, which we will talk about. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that I liked about this phone, and I didn't get the A53. That's when I was pretty much done with the A series because I could see it was going downhill. So with the A53, they switched over to the Exynos, and then they took away the headphone jack with the A53. This, you can see here, still has the headphone jack, and I feel like it's okay to take away the headphone jack for more expensive models like the flagship models, or even like the upper mid-range, right? Like a Galaxy A70 series, something like that, the A73, 74. But for the A50 series, right, I felt like they should have kept the headphone because, people who were buying these phones, they probably would have to spend more money and invest in some good wireless earbuds. So, trying to force people to buy earbuds is, I don't know, I don't really like that move. Again, these aren't gaming phones, of course, they're mid-range phones. If you wanted something like, you guys know, get an older flagship, or I really like some of Xiaomi's phones as well. But you can see smooth ultra here. The Exynos is just not well optimized. It can only do smooth high, and I think, yeah, we can do balance ultra as well too, all the way up to HD. Yeah, so it's just a better optimized chip for gaming. I notice in general there's just less stutters and stuff like that. Not only that, but it does translate to, I think, animations as well too. Both of these phones running One UI 5, and the A52s just doesn't seem as stuttery with the animations. They're both pretty fast. I think the A54 is definitely faster at opening applications, and we'll see how it manages RAM, because I'm pretty interested in that, see if it'll take a long time to load up those applications like with the Pixel 6a. So I'm really curious about that because they're both 6 gigs of RAM. But yeah, when you're playing games, you can definitely tell the difference here with the frame rates and graphics and stuff like that. So that's why I really like the A52. Even though you're not getting like you're not getting the full 60 frames, it is still pretty decent. It looks like it's running at like maybe 40 frames or something like that. But yeah, so still pretty decent for a mid-range phone, especially with we had like 2 updates now, and it's still running pretty fast. So I think it's a pretty decent chip. So you guys see Samsung sort of made a downgrade going with the Exynos chip. It just, you can tell the difference immediately. It just feels slow. All right, let's go ahead and check the speed. So the A52s is still pretty much on par, but this chip should be definitely, the A54 should be a little bit faster. Yeah, they're kind of on the same. Yeah, they're pretty much the same in terms of speed. A54 look like it's a little bit faster. So let's talk about the display on here. It's a very good display at 6.5 inches. It's a full 1080p display. So it also has 405 for the PPI, it's Super AMOLED, and it's 120 Hertz as well too. It was a very good display when it first came out, and it still looks good today. 800 nits brightness on here, so it's fairly bright. But yeah, absolutely love the display. I think it still looks really great with the punch hole. So no issues there. Just very colorful panel, and that's what I like about this A54 series, is that you do get a pretty nice high quality panel on a mid-range phone, since we know Samsung makes some of the best displays on the market. Now the design on here, it is a full plastic design on here, so you got plastic back and plastic sides, which is interesting because it's kind of interesting because Samsung, when they went to the A54, they moved to like this glass back on the A54, and I wonder if that was more expensive, and could they have put a plastic back on the A54 and gave it a better chip? I don't know, but it's who knows. But yeah, so we got the headphone jack on here, SD card support. It's IP67 dust and water resistant as well, and it's fine. Like I said, with the plastic, you drop this phone, it's hard to shatter the back, obviously. Yeah, so it's definitely fine. I think it still looks pretty decent. This phone does have stereo speakers. All right, so the speakers sound pretty good bass quality, very loud, so I have no issues with that. The top speaker will give you pretty good amount of volume as well. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about those cameras. How have those cameras aged? So this phone does have a 64 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel. The other additional features this phone has is you do have the under the display fingerprint sensor, which is very fast. It works. I don't have any issues with that. What you don't have is wireless charging, of course, and you also have on here Face Unlock, NFC, and like I said, IP67 dust and water resistant. And of course, with these mid-range phones, because I got a couple questions about that. No, you never get Samsung desktop support with these mid-range phones, guys. But it does have everything else like secure folders, the Samsung Kids, and all of the other One UI features. You just don't have, that one, or the reverse wireless charging and stuff like that. So. But you do have everything else. It's a 64 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It's got a 5 megapixel macro and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. It shoots in 4K 30, and then you have a 32 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 30. And the images still look pretty good on here. Yes, I think the A54 does have a slightly better camera, for those who are asking. But the A52s still takes some pretty good shots. Like I said, it is very close in terms of quality when I was just looking at them side by side. But yes, I noticed the difference there, especially in lower light. But the A52s still gives you, pretty good pictures, as you guys can see. I don't really see any issues with, the photos on this phone. Like I said, it does a pretty decent job, surprisingly still. So I was pretty impressed. Be sure to let me know what you guys think. Now, the battery life on the A52s has still been pretty good, considering that I get a lot of comments that said their battery life starts to degrade over time, or starts to just get worse over time with these mid-range phones. And I could definitely see that happening, but with the A52s, really not the case. That it feels pretty much the same as when I first got it. It has a pretty big size battery, 4500 milliamp battery on here, and you have 25-watt charging on here. Battery life is still get you around 6 hours of screen on time pretty easily. So really no issues there. So overall, this phone has aged pretty well. I'm curious to see how these Exynos A52 phones will age. With this phone launching with Android 11. So we'll see 2 updates later, see how they handle. Are they still fast? But surprisingly, this phone is super smooth, guys. That was my main thing here, is that this phone is just fast, man. That's what I really liked about it when it first came out. Good battery life. You still have the headphone jack. You still have the SD card. You can play games pretty fast on here as far as gaming and stuff like that. And you don't have those really glitchy animations and stuff like that going on here. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.